welcome to Bay Floor Leadership with myself and Dr. Eddie Sherman. And thanks to Lexipol for hosting this. This is a series of short questions that you send in to us, and we provide you our perspective. Mine from a fire chiefing standpoint, and Ed as a psychologist, but also a veteran fire officer himself. And hopefully between the two of us, we can help round out and come up with some solutions to some of your challenges. So let's take a look at our first question. So, is it ever okay to bend or break a rule? If so, when and why? Well, yeah, I mean, sure, I think sometimes it is. When a police officer pulls you over and you're speeding, that officer has discretion to do what they want. The area that you can get that can be very dangerous here is subjectivity. If you allow this one to break a rule, but someone else can, and you write them up, then you're losing. That's not what we're talking about. So I like to break policies up into red, yellow, and green policies. And a red policy is if you violate it, you could seriously hurt, kill somebody. You could cause pain, cause damage. It could be life-ending, right? So I think there's zero discretion when it comes to what your red policies are. What would be a red policy? You're always going to wear your SCBA going to a building fire. You're going to stop at red lights when going emergency until it's clear. Those type of things where it's obvious or should be obvious to know, there cannot be any discretion. What would a yellow policy be? A yellow policy would be after every run, you've got to fill out a report, and all areas need to be filled out. Certainly could put the department in a legal jam, but it's not going to hurt or kill anybody, okay? And then a green policy is every Thursday mow the lawn. You know what? Get a goat. I'm not worried about mowing the lawn. I'm more focused on the red and the yellow areas. So I say that if you use that, and maybe some departments even do this, maybe your department does this, code the policies. Red, yellow, and green. Not your opinion, but organizationally consider doing that, whether you use Lexipol or whatever other, if you have your own policies, but consider those. And again, in general, no, don't do that. But there are things from time to time. Let me give you a lighthearted example. An employee is never late to work, but they're late today because of they had a kid sick and their phone cell was dead. I'm going to give that one to you one time, okay? Because you've got a great history of being on time and that sort of thing. However, the firefighter who blows through a red light, knowing it's against policy, you've got to be an officer. You've got to do your job, and you've got to enforce that policy. Ed, let's hear from you on this question.
So, one of the things that we've all heard at one time or another in our profession in public safety is one of the reasons that we hired you is for your judgment. And you know what? That is really true, and that's really important because it's essential, even when working as a member of a team, to be able to think on one's feet and to try to make decisions based on circumstances, because the circumstances change. And so, yes, I totally agree that it is important to look at the entire situation and what's going on, with the caveat that the intent is to apply it uniformly and fairly, in the sense that it's always a human temptation that perhaps an easier or better employee you might want to give the benefit of the doubt, and a more challenging staff member who may take more of your time and is more difficult, you may be more restrictive of. It's really good to be able to sort of monitor that in your own style to make sure that you're fairly and evenly meting that out. But, of course, we have to say there are extenuating circumstances in all kinds of situations, and you really do want to look at the totality of the circumstance, not just simply the rule book says this, that, or the other thing.
It's a dangerous area whenever we're using our judgment versus strictly enforcing a policy. Again, we are, of course, promoting you and hiring you for your judgment, but the danger is when your personal feelings get involved. We all have employees we love, and we all have employees we love even more. I'll use that as the standard. And the ones you love even more, you may be more apt to give them a break. That's the danger. Whether you like Mary, whether you like Joe, whether you like Sally or not, basically, if you're going to give Mary a break to being late, then you need to apply that same break to Joe and Sally. Otherwise, you can get yourself in a jam. Also, I think the more times an employee has committed an offense may be where there's different discretion used. I mean, this is not your first time being late. This is your fifth. So you're complaining to me that we didn't jam up Sally. Well, she's only been late once this entire year. This is your fifth time in the last 2 weeks. Okay, that's unacceptable. So that's kind of where it goes back and forth. It's kind of like a lot of things in life. You may not be able to always define it, but you know it when you see it. And I think you'll know when it's appropriate to give somebody a break and when it's not. But in general, be very, very careful about subjectivity, because that can get you in big trouble because you're taking care of this person, but you're not taking care of that one. So again, you're a law enforcement officer as a company officer. Your job is to enforce the policies. The one sure way to know you won't get jammed up is to enforce the policies across the board without discretion. On the other hand, that's not very human. So there may be times where you have to apply different responses based upon the situation. Ed?
So I want to vigorously encourage that everybody try to gather as much information as reasonable. And I say reasonable because time is a factor. There are other things that come into play, but gather as much information, understand what's going on, and then make an informed decision about what the circumstances are. But I want to put another piece in this. A colleague of mine uses the standard, which I think is really helpful, which is called let's play, let's go to court. So if you have to raise your hand at some point in time in a deposition or in a courtroom and explain why you did what you did, is it defensible? Is there a reason other than, well, I just wanted to help this person, or I thought that this person needed to be punished? Yes, okay, that was your conclusion, but why? And what was that based on? And if you can use that as a frame of reference, yet want to connect with that person and want to problem solve and want to bring about answers and solutions, then hopefully you will take it to the right place.
And consider the rule that's being broken. You know, we may blow off being late once in a while, but the reason you need to be on time is so the station's ready for an emergency. That's why we have that. I mean, obviously to have discipline and order in the organization. But you know, you haven't shaved now for 2 days. All right. Is it about the grooming? Well, that's part of it, your appearance to the public, but it's so you can get a good seal on your mask. Okay, so that's why we have policies. So when you tie it in, and we with Ed and I, we talked about this before. Use a template. What's best for your family? What's best for the community? What's best for the organization? Well, if that employee being on time is what's best for the organization and the community, then they need to be on time, and kind of apply that to your decision making. In general, as we wrap this up, in general, I think enforce them across the board the same way. Be fair, be consistent. And you know, when Ed made the comment about court, I immediately thought of an audience going, "Oh, what do we got to worry about going to court all the time?" Yes, it's 2023. Read the papers, okay? Read what some of your brothers and sisters in this business are going through for not doing their jobs or for doing them wrong. You do not have time to deal with getting depositions and being called into court. You could have some good days off, right? Instead of having to deal with that kind of stuff. So yield on the side of the safety of the employee, the public, and what's best for the organization. Ed, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, support people, connect with people, problem solve, find the solutions, work so that your crew knows that you care and that they matter, but you still need to hold them accountable as well.
It's a constant balance being a company officer. Again, thanks. And that's what Bay Floor Leadership's all about. You're not sitting in an office, you're in a firehouse. You're going from the Bay Floor to the truck to the kitchen. And at the same time, you're having to manage that group and lead that group in both social within the lighter times in the firehouse, and as well as some very hard times when you're responding to emergencies. And being ready, prepared, and providing that leadership on the bay floor is what your job is. If you have any questions that we can help you tackle, you can reach out to us at webinars@lexipol.com. Just reach out, and subject line is bay floor leadership. And no matter what the question is, if you're not sure which way to go with it, we'll help you give it a shot. Thanks so much for checking in today.
Thanks for being here with us.